And we're back here at Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here with Kevin Page, a former parliamentary budget officer nationally, as well as now president and CEO of the University of Ottawa's Institute of Fiscal Studies and Democracy. Kevin, I gotta just ask you just a more general question about the budget. And people may not realize how many thousands of pages are, if we still were printing, would be printed out to be the budget document and all the appendices and so on. Is it too big now to oversee properly? I'm thinking of parliamentary oversight, those kinds of issues.
Yeah, we've definitely seen like a growth in just the weight, the size, the number of pages of budgets. I think when I started Department of Finance, sort of 1980-ish, you probably see an average budget that period of time was probably in 100 to 150 pages maximum. That would even include some of these sorts of tables we call fiscal reference tables, which you have to go to the Department of Finance website. Yeah, now as we see governments kind of going through their mandate, we see budgets getting longer and longer. We've seen budgets top out at almost 500 pages now when you include in annexes. So they've become very much big policy documents for the government. A lot of the fiscal information that you and I will talk about in terms of the economic projections, the planning outlook, the statement of transactions. What is the fiscal outlook? How significant are these measures? That's kind of buried now in the annexes. So the documents have definitely changed. It's hard to believe that a lot of citizens are going to wade through that. Like you and I have been in those budget lockups. I think the media, they definitely struggle to get to the core of these sorts of budgets. I think we're going to probably need to see some innovation, I think, with respect to these documents so that we can make them more accessible to the general public.
Yeah, and so let's put you in the shoes of the average parliamentarian, the average member of parliament. What should he or she be doing to get more accountability out of the process?
Yeah, I think in terms of there's the financial cycle, which the budget really is a key part. I think we want our parliamentarians to debate budget strategy. So again, we're likely to have a budget the next month to 2 months. We have very kind of unique global environment right now. There's in Canada we're experiencing with a lot of domestic inflation. There's concerns about hard and soft landings in this environment. Particularly with respect to housing prices and what that might do to the sector. So we want parliamentarians to debate, do we have the right strategy around the budget? But then, as the financial cycle, we take the further steps, then we want parliamentarians to actually start scrutinizing some of these new programs. So when we get into that, the supplies of these authorities or changes to various acts, could be income tax acts or sales tax acts, or other statutes, we want them to make sure, we want them to have enough information, enough time so that they can really debate these issues. And I think what we see, I think, is, outsiders, myself, Institute of Fiscal Studies and Democracy, particularly when we get into the actual scrutiny of spending, there's not a lot of time, at standing committees, either operations of estimates in the House or in the standing committees, House standing committees of various departments, actually scrutinizing departmental spending. And in this environment where we need to find more fiscal room, that should be a priority.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess it's a twofold task, because what we've been doing in this program so far, you and I have been talking about short-term issues of the immediate budget, but also long-term issues. So that's got to be mirrored in the oversight and transparency and accountability, right?
Yeah, and I think, again, strategically, it's fair to ask, we want parliamentarians to actually join the debate. Is there more Canada can be doing to strengthen competitiveness of our economy as we kind of transition to a lower carbon footprint? Are we, are there things that we need to do with our social safety net to make it more inclusive, better value for money? Again, we're seeing more and more kind of climate-related shocks. Do we have the right programs in place to deal with resilience? And so these are big policy kind of questions, but I think we have big federal departments that that deal with these issues, and we want parliamentarians showing up those standing committees and debating those issues with ministers and deputy ministers.
Are they doing that these days, or is it still a truncated process?
Yeah, I don't think we're seeing enough of it, to be honest, Tony. I don't think again, it's a longstanding problem where if Canadians were to go to the Parliament of Canada website and they would look at these standing committee meetings when they're approving, the estimates of various departments, you could see, that there's not a lot of attendance at those meetings, and there's, often they're very short, and yet we're approving very quickly the overall spending requests that departments are making. So there's definitely some structural reforms that we need to make with that system.
Kevin, we're going to return to you after this brief break.